A year after our divorce, my ex-wife Rachel dared to text me, "I need to talk. Today." I stared at my phone screen, sitting in my cramped bachelor apartment with takeout containers scattered across the coffee table. The audacity was breathtaking. After 12 months of blessed silence, she wanted to talk. Today, like I was some kind of on-call emotional support system. I typed back without hesitation, "Today I'm busy. Date night with your sister." The satisfaction was immediate and intoxicating. I could practically hear her phone hitting the floor wherever she was. Rachel's younger sister Emma had always been the kind one in that family, the nurse who actually cared about people instead of just using them. During our marriage, Emma was the only family member who ever asked how I was doing. During the divorce, she was the only one who didn't automatically take Rachel's side when the truth about the cheating came out. 3 months ago, Emma and I had run into each other at a coffee shop near the hospital where she worked. What started as friendly conversation over lattes had turned into something neither of us expected. We'd been keeping it quiet, testing the waters, seeing if what we felt was real or just mutual sympathy over Rachel's destruction. It was real. Very real. My phone started buzzing immediately. Rachel calling. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call. Another. I turned the phone face down and went back to my laptop, trying to focus on the IT consulting project that was due Monday. But the buzzing continued like an angry wasp trapped in a jar. 20 minutes later, Emma arrived at my door, looking stunning in a simple blue dress that matched her eyes. She had this way of making even scrubs look elegant, but tonight she'd made an effort that took my breath away. "Ready for dinner?" she asked, then noticed my expression. "What's wrong?" "I may have just lit a very large fire," I said, showing her the text exchange. Emma's face went pale, then flushed pink. "David, are you insane? She's going to lose her mind." "Good," I said, grabbing my jacket. "About time someone told your family the truth about what's been happening between us." We went to Marcello's, a little Italian place downtown where the lighting was dim and the wine was decent. Emma seemed nervous, checking her phone every few minutes. I reached across the table and took her hand. "Hey," I said softly, "we're not doing anything wrong. We're two adults who care about each other. Your sister destroyed our marriage with her affair, not us." Emma squeezed my fingers. "I know, it's just, my family doesn't see it that way. They think she's the victim because you left." She was sleeping with her married co-worker in our bed while I was working 60-hour weeks to pay for her shopping addiction, I said. "If that makes her a victim, then I'm the Pope." That got a laugh out of Emma, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her all evening. We ordered pasta and shared stories about our week. She told me about a difficult patient who'd finally turned the corner. I complained about a client who insisted on using a password that was literally password 123. Normal couple stuff that felt extraordinary after years of Rachel's constant drama and manipulation. We were walking back to my car when Emma's phone exploded. "Oh, God," she whispered, staring at the screen. 17 missed calls from Rachel, 12 from Mom, 8 from Dad, 5 from my brother Jake. "Don't answer," I said. "Not tonight." But Emma was already scrolling through text messages, her face growing paler with each one. "David, this is bad, really bad." She showed me the screen. Rachel's messages were a mix of all-caps rage and wounded victim playing. "How could you do this to me? He's using you to hurt me, can't you see that? You're destroying our family, Emma. I can't believe my own sister would betray me like this." The messages from her parents were worse. Cold, disappointed, demanding explanations. Her father's final text was brutal. "Come home immediately. We need to discuss your poor judgment." "They want me to choose," Emma said quietly, "between you and them." I stopped walking and turned to face her. "Emma, if you want to end this to protect your relationship with your family, I'll understand. I won't like it, but I'll understand." She looked up at me with those blue eyes that had been haunting my dreams for months. Do you think I'm betraying her? I think you're the only person in your family who ever treated me like a human being, I said. I think your sister made her choices when she decided to cheat, and now she has to live with the consequences. And I think... I paused, my heart hammering. I think I'm falling in love with you, and that has nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with who you are. Emma stepped closer, her hand finding my chest. I love you too, she whispered, and I'm tired of letting Rachel control everyone's life. She turned off her phone. We spent the night at my apartment talking until dawn about everything and nothing, about her dreams of becoming a nurse practitioner, about my plans to start my own IT consulting firm, about the future we might build together if we were brave enough to take it. Sunday morning brought the reckoning. Emma's phone had 47 missed calls and 63 text messages. My phone wasn't much better. Rachel had apparently spent the entire night orchestrating a family-wide intervention. The messages ranged from disappointed to furious to manipulative. Rachel's mother, Emma, honey, you're being manipulated. He's using you to hurt Rachel. Can't you see that? Her father, this is completely inappropriate. End this relationship immediately. Her brother Jake, what the hell is wrong with you? He's our enemy. Rachel herself had sent a novella of emotional manipulation that would have impressed a soap opera writer. She painted herself as the wounded party, claimed I was, obviously, using Emma for revenge, and demanded that Emma stop this madness before it destroys our family forever. They've already decided, Emma said, sitting on my couch in one of my old t-shirts, looking smaller and sadder than I'd ever seen her. I'm the villain in this story. No, I said firmly. Rachel is the villain. She cheated. She lied. She destroyed our marriage. And now she's trying to destroy your happiness because she can't stand the idea that you might have what she threw away. Emma looked at me with tears in her eyes. But they're my family. I know, I said, sitting beside her and pulling her close. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that loving me costs you so much. She was quiet for a long moment, then pulled back to look at me. It's not your fault. This is who they've always been. I just never wanted to see it before. That afternoon, Emma went to her parents' house to face the music. I waited at my apartment, pacing like a caged animal, checking my phone every 30 seconds for updates. She'd been gone 3 hours when she finally called. How bad? I asked immediately. They disowned me, she said, her voice eerily calm. Mom said I'm no longer welcome in their home. Dad said I'm dead to him. Jake called me a traitor and a fool. Emma, I'm so sorry. Don't be, she interrupted. You know what I realized sitting in that living room, listening to them tear me apart? They never asked if I was happy. They never asked if you treated me well. They never asked what I wanted. It was all about Rachel. It's always been all about Rachel. What do you want to do? I want to move in with you, she said without hesitation. If you'll have me. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. That night, we moved Emma's things out of her apartment. It wasn't much. She'd always lived simply, unlike her materialistic sister. But as we carried boxes up to my place, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: hope. We were building something real together. Something that belonged to us, not to Rachel's drama or her family's dysfunction. Of course, Rachel wasn't done with us yet, not by a long shot. Monday morning brought the first real salvo in what would become an all-out war. I was at my desk trying to focus on debugging code for a client's e-commerce platform when my boss Mike appeared at my cubicle with a grim expression. David, we need to talk, he said. Conference room. Now. My stomach dropped. Mike was a good guy, fair, but no nonsense. The fact that he looked uncomfortable meant this was serious. In the conference room, Mike closed the door and sat across from me. I got a call this morning from HR. There's been a complaint filed against you. What kind of complaint? Harassment. The complainant says you've been sending threatening messages and engaging in stalking behavior. I felt the blood drain from my face. That's completely false. Who filed the complaint? Mike consulted his notes. Rachel Harper. Says she's your ex-wife. She is my ex-wife, I said carefully. But I haven't contacted her in months. The only communication we've had recently was a text exchange on Saturday where she demanded to talk to me and I declined. Can you show me that exchange? I pulled out my phone and showed Mike the brief conversation. He read it twice, frowning. This doesn't look like harassment, he said. But she's claiming there's more. Says you've been calling her workplace, driving by her apartment, sending emails. All lies, I said firmly. Mike, you know me. Have I ever shown any signs of unstable behavior? Have I ever been anything but professional? No, he admitted, which is why this surprised me. But David, I have to take this seriously. HR is requiring that you have no contact with this woman whatsoever. Any violation and you'll be terminated immediately. Understood, I said. Can I ask who she spoke with in HR? Sarah Chen. She seemed pretty convinced that this was legitimate. Sarah Chen. I made a mental note of that name. Something about this felt orchestrated, too convenient. Rachel wasn't smart enough to navigate corporate HR procedures on her own. She had help. That afternoon, Emma called me in tears. David, something happened at the hospital. What's wrong? Someone trashed my locker, tore up photos, poured coffee on my scrubs, left a note. What did the note say? Stop sleeping with other women's husbands or face the consequences. The rage that filled me was white hot and immediate. Did you report it to security? Yes, but they said the cameras in the locker room have been broken for weeks. There's no way to prove who did it. It was Rachel, I said. Or someone working for her. You don't know that. Emma, she filed a false harassment complaint against me this morning. This isn't coincidence. She's escalating. That evening, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I drove by Rachel's apartment building, not to confront her, but to see if I could spot anything unusual. I parked across the street and waited. 20 minutes later, a familiar BMW pulled into the parking lot. Greg Fulton, Rachel's former affair partner, climbed out and headed toward the building. So they were still together. Interesting. Greg was everything I wasn't: tall, athletic, perfectly groomed, and completely soulless. He'd been Rachel's co-worker in the HR department of a mid-sized insurance company, married with 2 kids, but that hadn't stopped him from pursuing my wife with the persistence of a heat-seeking missile. I took photos of him entering the building and noted the time. If Rachel wanted to play games, I'd play games, but I'd play to win. The next morning, I called in a favor with my friend Pete, who tended bar at O'Malley's downtown. Pete had connections throughout the city: bartenders, servers, security guards, the invisible network of service workers who saw everything and remembered more than people realized. I need information on someone, I told him over coffee. Rachel Harper, works at Meridian Insurance. Your ex? Pete raised an eyebrow. Thought you were done with that drama. She's making it my drama again. Someone needs to remind her that I'm not the same pushover she married. Pete grinned. Now you're talking. What do you need to know? Everything. Where she goes, who she talks to, what she's planning. She's trying to destroy my relationship with Emma and sabotage my career. I need ammunition to fight back. Within 48 hours, Pete had delivered a goldmine of information. Rachel and Greg were indeed still together, though Greg's wife remained oblivious. They met twice a week at a hotel downtown, always on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Rachel had been telling people at work that I was stalking and threatening her, building a narrative of victimhood that painted her as the innocent party. More importantly, Pete had discovered that Sarah Chen, the HR representative who'd taken Rachel's complaint against me, was a close friend of Rachel's from college. They had lunch together every Friday at a restaurant near my office building. The pieces were falling into place. This wasn't random harassment. It was a coordinated campaign to destroy my life and drive Emma away from me. Rachel couldn't stand that I'd moved on, especially with her sister. She was going to eliminate the competition by any means necessary, but Rachel had made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me. That Friday, I positioned myself at a coffee shop with a clear view of the restaurant where Rachel and Sarah were having lunch. I watched them through the window, deep in conversation, Sarah taking notes on a legal pad. They looked like conspirators planning a coup. When they finished eating, I followed Sarah back to her office building. In the lobby, I approached her with a friendly smile. "Sarah Chen? Hi, I'm David Harper. I think you handled a complaint about me this week." Sarah's face went pale. "Mr. Harper, you shouldn't be here. This could be seen as intimidation." "I'm not here to intimidate anyone," I said calmly. "I'm here because I know you and Rachel are friends, and I know this complaint is fraudulent. I have phone records, text messages, and witness statements proving that I haven't contacted my ex-wife except for one brief text exchange where she initiated contact. I can't discuss an ongoing investigation." "Of course not. But I wanted you to know that I'm documenting everything, including your lunch meetings with the complainant. If this complaint isn't withdrawn by Monday, I'll be filing my own complaint with the State Ethics Board about HR representatives who conspire with friends to file false reports." Sarah's face went from pale to ashen. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm informing you," I said pleasantly. "Have a great weekend." Monday morning, Mike called me into his office with good news. "The complaint against you has been withdrawn," he said. "Apparently there was some kind of misunderstanding." "That's great," I said, trying not to smile too widely. "I'm glad we could clear that up." But even as I celebrated that small victory, I knew Rachel wouldn't give up. If anything, my countermove would only make her more determined to destroy me. The war was just beginning, and I needed to be ready for whatever came next. That evening, Emma and I went to dinner at a small bistro across town. We were holding hands across the table, talking about our plans for the weekend, when Emma suddenly tensed. "Don't look now," she said quietly, "but Rachel and Greg just walked in." I glanced toward the entrance and saw them being seated 3 tables away. Rachel looked directly at me, her face a mask of cold fury. Greg whispered something in her ear and she nodded. "Should we leave?" Emma asked. "No," I said firmly. "We have every right to be here. We're not going to run from them." For the next hour, we endured Rachel's theatrical performance. She spoke loudly enough for us to hear, telling Greg about how traumatized she was by my harassment. She made a show of looking nervous whenever I moved, as if she feared for her safety. When we finally got up to leave, Rachel intercepted us at the door. "Emma," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "Are you okay? You look tired." "I'm fine, Rachel," Emma replied coolly. "Are you sure? Because you know you can always come home, right? Mom and Dad miss you terribly. We all do." "No, you don't," Emma said. "You miss having someone to manipulate and control. But I'm done with that." Rachel's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing the rage underneath. "He's poisoning you against your own family. Can't you see that? The only poison in our family was the lies you told about David," Emma shot back, "and I'm done drinking it." We walked past Rachel toward the exit, but Greg stepped into our path. "You need to stay away from her," he said, pointing at Rachel. "She's been through enough because of you." I looked at this man who had helped destroy my marriage, who had pursued my wife while his own children waited at home, and felt something cold and calculating settle in my chest. "Greg," I said pleasantly, "how's your wife? Kids doing well?" His face went white. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. I knew about his double life, and he knew that I knew. "Come on," I said to Emma. "Let's go home." As we walked to the car, Emma squeezed my hand. That was intense. "It's going to get worse before it gets better," I warned her. "Are you ready for that?" She stopped walking and turned to face me. "David, I love you. Whatever they throw at us, we'll handle it together." I kissed her right there in the parking lot, not caring who might see. Rachel wanted a war. She was about to get one. But this time, I was going to win. The next phase of Rachel's campaign began on a Tuesday morning when Emma called me from the hospital, her voice shaking with barely controlled anger. She called my supervisor, Emma said. Rachel actually called the hospital and told them I was having an inappropriate relationship with a patient's family member. That's insane. You don't even work with my patients. It doesn't matter. The story she told was detailed enough that my supervisor had to investigate. I spent 2 hours in meetings explaining that you're not connected to any of my patients, that we met outside of work, that there's no ethical violation whatsoever. Did they believe you? Eventually, yes, but David, she knew exactly what buttons to push. She knew enough about hospital protocols to make her complaint sound legitimate. Someone coached her. I was beginning to understand the scope of Rachel's network. She wasn't just lashing out randomly. She was systematically targeting every aspect of our lives with surgical precision. That afternoon, I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of playing defense, it was time to go on the offensive. I started with Greg's wife, Jennifer. A little online research revealed that she was active on social media, posting frequent photos of their 2 young children and their seemingly perfect suburban life. She had no idea that her husband was still carrying on his affair with my ex-wife. I created an anonymous email account and sent Jennifer a simple message. Your husband has been meeting Rachel Harper at the Marriott downtown every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m., room 412. I thought you should know. I included photos I'd taken of Greg entering Rachel's apartment building and timestamps showing the pattern of their meetings. Nothing illegal, nothing that violated privacy laws, just information that a betrayed spouse had a right to know. The next Tuesday, I positioned myself in the Marriott lobby with a newspaper and a cup of coffee. At 1:45 p.m., Greg arrived, looking smug and confident. At 2:10 p.m., Jennifer arrived, her face a mask of cold determination. The explosion was audible even through the hotel's thick walls. 20 minutes later, Greg emerged from the elevator looking like he'd been hit by a truck. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, and there were what looked like nail marks on his neck. Jennifer followed 30 seconds later, her head held high, carrying what appeared to be Greg's wallet and car keys. Rachel stumbled out of the elevator 5 minutes after that, her perfect makeup smeared, her designer dress askew. She looked around the lobby frantically, probably hoping to find Greg, but he was long gone. I folded my newspaper and left, feeling satisfied but knowing this was only the beginning. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. By Thursday, the entire office at Meridian Insurance knew about Greg's affair. Jennifer had apparently called Rachel's supervisor directly, demanding to know what kind of workplace allowed employees to conduct extramarital affairs during business hours. Pete filled me in on the details over drinks that evening. Your ex is in deep trouble at work, he said with obvious relish. Word is they're considering termination for both her and the boyfriend. Apparently the wife showed up at their office with photos and demanded answers. How did Jennifer get photos? Security cameras at the hotel. She convinced the manager to show her the footage after she explained the situation. Turns out adultery makes hotel managers very cooperative when it comes to helping wronged spouses. I felt a twinge of guilt about destroying Greg's marriage, but it passed quickly. He'd made his choices. Now he was living with the consequences. Rachel's response was swift and vicious. She escalated her harassment of Emma, calling the hospital multiple times with different false complaints. She reported Emma for drug theft, patient abuse, and professional misconduct. Each complaint required investigation. Each investigation put Emma under more stress. But Rachel's biggest mistake was underestimating Emma's colleagues. The nursing staff at the hospital was tight-knit, and they'd quickly figured out that the anonymous complaints all came from the same vindictive source. When Rachel called for the 5th time in 2 weeks, this time claiming Emma had been drinking on duty, Emma's supervisor had had enough. We traced the calls, Emma told me that evening. They all came from the same number. When my supervisor called it back, guess who answered? Rachel. Rachel. So now the hospital has documentation that she's been filing false reports. They're considering a restraining order. Good, I said. Let her explain to a judge why she's obsessed with destroying her sister's career. But I knew Rachel wouldn't give up easily. She was cornered now, her affair exposed, her job in jeopardy, her family turning against her. Cornered animals were the most dangerous. The next attack came from an unexpected direction. I arrived at work Friday morning to find my boss waiting for me with a grim expression. "David, we need to talk again," Mike said. "Someone called the client you're working on the Morrison project for, told them you've been arrested for domestic violence and that they should request a different consultant." "That's completely false," I said immediately. "I've never been arrested for anything. I know that. I ran a background check after the call. But the client is nervous now. They're asking questions. Who called them? Anonymous tip to their HR department. But David, this is getting serious. Someone is actively trying to destroy your career." I spent the morning doing damage control, providing character references and documentation to reassure the client. But the incident made one thing clear. Rachel was willing to destroy my livelihood to get what she wanted. That weekend, Emma and I sat in my apartment planning our counterattack. We'd been reactive long enough. It was time to take control of the narrative. "She's made one crucial mistake," I told Emma. "She's documented everything. Every false complaint, every harassment call, every attempt to sabotage our careers. We have a paper trail that proves malicious intent." "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time to have a conversation with Rachel's family. The real story, not the victim narrative she's been spinning." "They won't listen to you." "They might listen to you." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "You want me to confront them?" "I want you to tell them the truth, about the affair, about the harassment, about what Rachel has really been doing. They disowned you based on lies. Maybe it's time they heard the facts. And if they don't believe me, then at least you'll know you tried, and we'll have other options." Sunday afternoon, Emma drove to her parents' house for the first time since they'd disowned her. I waited at home, pacing the apartment like a caged animal, checking my phone every few minutes for updates. The call came 3 hours later. "How did it go?" I asked immediately. "Better than expected," Emma said, her voice cautious but hopeful. "They listened, really listened. When I showed them the documentation of Rachel's harassment campaign, when I explained about Greg's wife and the hotel incident, they started asking questions." "What kind of questions?" "About Rachel's version of events, about why she was so desperate to break us up, about whether they'd been manipulated." "And?" Mom cried. Dad got very quiet. Jake actually apologized to me. I felt something loosen in my chest. "So, they believe you?" "They're starting to. Mom said she wants to meet with you, to hear your side of the story." "When?" "Next weekend, Sunday dinner, if you're willing." I was more than willing. For the first time in months, it felt like we were winning. But Rachel wasn't done with us yet. Not even close. The meeting with Emma's parents was scheduled for Sunday at 2 p.m., but Rachel made her move on Saturday night. Emma and I were having a quiet evening at home, watching a movie and sharing a bottle of wine, when someone started pounding on my apartment door. Not knocking, pounding, like they were trying to break it down. "Open up!" Rachel's voice was shrill and desperate. "I know you're in there. We need to talk." Emma and I looked at each other. "Don't answer it," she whispered. The pounding continued. Emma, please. I'm your sister. I love you. He's poisoning you against me." Other apartment doors were opening. Mrs. Patterson from 3B stuck her head out, looking annoyed. Mr. Kim from across the hall was recording everything on his phone. "I'm calling the police," I said loudly enough for Rachel to hear. "Go ahead," she screamed back. "Call them. Tell them how you stole my sister. Tell them how you're manipulating her." I was already dialing 911 when the pounding stopped. Through the peephole, I could see Rachel slumped against my door, crying. "Ma'am, this is 911. What's your emergency?" "I'd like to report someone causing a disturbance at my apartment building," I said calmly. "She's been pounding on doors and screaming for the past 10 minutes. The police arrived 20 minutes later. By then, Rachel had composed herself enough to put on a performance. She told the officers that I was her abusive ex-husband who had stolen her sister and was keeping Emma against her will. Officer Martinez, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, listened patiently to Rachel's story, then knocked on my door. "Mr. Harper? Could we speak with you and Ms. Harper?" I let them in. Emma was calm and articulate as she explained our relationship and Rachel's pattern of harassment. I showed them the documentation we'd been keeping, the false complaints, the harassing phone calls, the workplace sabotage attempts. "Ma'am," Officer Martinez said to Rachel, "it sounds like you need to leave these people alone. They're adults, they're in a consensual relationship, and you're harassing them." "But she's my sister," Rachel protested. "He's manipulating her." "Ms. Harper," the officer said to Emma, "are you here against your will? Are you being coerced or manipulated in any way?" "No," Emma said firmly. "I'm here because I want to be. I love David, and I'm tired of my sister trying to control my life." The officers left with a warning to Rachel about harassment and trespassing. But as they escorted her to the parking lot, Rachel turned back and shouted something that chilled my blood. "You think you've won, but you haven't. I'll destroy you both. I'll make sure you lose everything." Sunday morning brought an unexpected call from Emma's mother. "Emma, dear, I'm afraid we need to postpone dinner," she said, her voice strained. "Rachel showed up here last night very upset. She's told us some very disturbing things about David." "What kind of things?" Emma asked, putting the phone on speaker so I could hear. "She says he's been threatening her, that he's dangerous, that she's afraid for her safety. She had photos of bruises on her arms." Emma and I looked at each other in shock. "Mom, that's impossible. David has never touched Rachel. We were together last night when she came to his apartment." "I don't know what to believe anymore," her mother said sadly. "This whole situation has gotten so out of hand." After the call ended, Emma was quiet for a long time. Finally, she looked at me with determination in her eyes. "She's not going to stop," she said. "Ever. She's going to keep escalating until she destroys us or destroys herself. So what do you want to do?" "I want to end this, once and for all." That afternoon, we drove to Rachel's apartment building. I waited in the car while Emma went upstairs to confront her sister directly. 30 minutes later, Emma returned, her face flushed with anger. "She's completely delusional," Emma said as she got in the car. "She actually believes her own lies now. She thinks you're some kind of master manipulator who seduced me as part of an elaborate revenge plot." "What did you tell her?" "I told her the truth. That I love you, that we're getting married, and that if she doesn't stop this harassment campaign, we'll file charges against her." "How did she react?" "She laughed, said she had evidence that would destroy you, that she was going to make sure you lost your job and I lost mine." "What kind of evidence?" "She wouldn't say. But David, she's planning something big. I could see it in her eyes." We didn't have to wait long to find out what Rachel had planned. Monday morning, I arrived at work to find my boss and 2 people from corporate HR waiting for me. "David," Mike said grimly, "we need to discuss some serious allegations that have been made against you." In the conference room, the HR representatives laid out Rachel's latest complaint. She claimed that I had been embezzling money from client accounts, that I had hacked into company systems to steal proprietary information, and that I had threatened to harm her if she reported my criminal activities. "These are completely false accusations," I said immediately. "I can provide documentation proving that every penny of client money has been properly handled, and I've never had access to any proprietary systems outside my normal job functions." "We understand your position," said the lead HR representative, a stern woman named Patricia Wells. But these are serious allegations that require investigation. You're suspended with pay pending a full audit of your work. I spent the rest of the day gathering documentation to prove my innocence. Bank records, email logs, project files, everything that would demonstrate that Rachel's accusations were fabricated. But even as I built my defense, I realized that Rachel had finally made the mistake that would destroy her. She'd gone too far. Corporate embezzlement was a federal crime. Filing false reports about federal crimes was also a federal crime. Rachel had just handed me the weapon I needed to end this war permanently. That evening, I called my lawyer. Rachel has filed false criminal allegations against me with my employer, I explained. I have documentation proving that every accusation is fabricated. I want to file charges against her for filing false reports and defamation. Do you have evidence that the reports are false? Mountains of it. Financial records, email logs, witness statements. She's also been conducting a months-long harassment campaign that I've been documenting. Bring me everything you have, my lawyer said. If what you're telling me is true, she's in serious legal trouble. Tuesday morning, while I was meeting with my lawyer, Emma called with devastating news. Rachel showed up at the hospital again, she said, her voice shaking. This time she claimed I was selling drugs to patients. Security had to escort her out, but not before she made a huge scene in the lobby. Did anyone believe her? No, but David, she looked unhinged, like she was having some kind of breakdown. I'm actually worried about what she might do next. I was worried too. Rachel was cornered, desperate, and clearly losing her grip on reality. Cornered animals were unpredictable. That afternoon, my lawyer called with good news. I filed a formal complaint with the police about the harassment campaign, he said. I've also sent a cease and desist letter to your ex-wife. If she contacts you or Emma again, she'll be in violation of a legal order. What about the false accusations at work? I've spoken with your company's legal department. They're treating this as a criminal matter now. If their investigation proves the allegations are false, they'll be cooperating with law enforcement to prosecute your ex-wife. Wednesday brought the vindication I'd been waiting for. Mike called me at home with the results of the company's audit. David, I owe you an apology, he said. The investigation found no evidence of any wrongdoing on your part. In fact, your client accounts are some of the most meticulously maintained in the company. So I'm cleared? Completely. And David, corporate is furious about the false allegations. They're pursuing criminal charges against whoever filed the fake reports. When can I come back to work? Tomorrow, if you want. And there might be a promotion in your future. The partners were impressed by how professionally you handled this situation. That evening, Emma and I celebrated with dinner at our favorite restaurant. For the first time in months, it felt like we could breathe freely. It's over, Emma said, raising her wine glass. She's finally gone too far, and everyone can see what she really is. I hope you're right, I said, clinking my glass against hers. But let's not count our chickens yet. I was right to be cautious. Rachel had one final card to play, and it was the most dangerous one yet. Thursday evening, Emma and I were planning our engagement party when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see a police officer standing in the hallway. Mr. Harper, I'm Detective Sarah Rodriguez. I need to speak with you about Rachel Harper. My blood ran cold. What's happened? May I come in? I let the detective into my apartment. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Harper, Rachel Harper was found unconscious in her apartment this morning. Apparent suicide attempt. She's in stable condition at Mass General. Emma gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. Despite everything Rachel had done, she was still her sister. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. But I'm not sure why you're here. She left a note, Detective Rodriguez said, pulling out a plastic evidence bag. It accuses you of driving her to attempt suicide through systematic harassment and threats. I felt the world tilt sideways. Even in her darkest moment, Rachel was still trying to destroy me. "Detective, that's completely false," I said. "I have documentation showing that she's been harassing us for months. I've filed complaints, hired a lawyer, everything has been handled through proper legal channels. I'd like to see that documentation." For the next 2 hours, I walked Detective Rodriguez through the entire timeline. The false workplace complaints, the harassment calls to Emma's hospital, the threatening visits to my apartment, the fabricated criminal allegations. I showed her emails, phone logs, witness statements, and police reports. "This is quite a paper trail," the detective said finally. "It appears that Ms. Harper has been conducting a sustained campaign of harassment against you and your girlfriend." "We tried to handle it legally," Emma said, speaking for the first time since the detective arrived. "We filed complaints, got restraining orders, documented everything. We never retaliated or threatened her." "The suicide note claims otherwise," Detective Rodriguez said, "but based on what you've shown me, it appears to be consistent with her pattern of false accusations." "What happens now?" I asked. "I'll be investigating the circumstances of the suicide attempt. If I find evidence that you or Ms. Emma Harper were involved in any way, charges will be filed. But based on what I've seen tonight, that seems unlikely." After the detective left, Emma collapsed onto the couch, crying. "I should go see her," she said. "She's my sister. Emma, she just tried to frame me for driving her to suicide. Are you sure that's wise?" "I have to. Whatever she's done, she's still family." The next morning, Emma went to the hospital while I waited at home. She returned 3 hours later, looking drained and sad. "How is she?" I asked. "Physically, she'll be fine. Mentally," Emma shook her head. "She's completely detached from reality. She actually believes that you orchestrated some elaborate conspiracy to destroy her life. Did you talk to her?" "I tried, but she kept insisting that you'd brainwashed me, that I was your victim too. She begged me to leave you and come home." "What did you tell her?" "I told her the truth, that she destroyed her own life with her choices, that her affair ended your marriage, not some plot by you, that her harassment campaign destroyed her relationship with our family." "How did she react?" "She started screaming that I was lying, that you'd turned me against her. The nurses had to sedate her." Over the weekend, the full scope of Rachel's breakdown became clear. Detective Rodriguez called to inform us that Rachel had been placed on a psychiatric hold after threatening to finish what she started if she was released. "The doctors believe she's having a psychotic break," the detective explained. "She's been telling the hospital staff that Mr. Harper is part of some conspiracy to destroy her life." "How long will she be held?" "At least 72 hours, possibly longer depending on her mental state. But Mr. Harper, I want you to know that my investigation has cleared you of any wrongdoing. In fact, I'm recommending that charges be filed against Ms. Harper for filing false police reports." Monday brought more good news. Emma's supervisor called to inform her that the hospital was banning Rachel from the premises and considering legal action for her repeated false complaints. "We've documented 17 separate harassment incidents," the supervisor explained. "Our legal department believes we have grounds for a restraining order and possibly criminal charges." That afternoon, my lawyer called with an update on the workplace situation. "Your company has decided to pursue charges against Rachel for the false embezzlement allegations," he said. "They're also considering a civil lawsuit for damages to their reputation." "What kind of damages are we talking about?" "Potentially significant. The false allegations required a full audit, legal consultation, and damaged their relationship with the client you were working with. They're looking at tens of thousands of dollars in costs." Tuesday evening, Emma's parents called to apologize. "We're so sorry," her mother said, crying. "We should have listened to you from the beginning. Rachel has been manipulating all of us for years." "We want to make this right," her father added. "Would you and David consider coming to dinner this weekend? We owe him an apology, too." "I'd like that," Emma said, squeezing my hand. Wednesday brought the final piece of the puzzle. Detective Rodriguez called to inform us that Rachel had been charged with multiple crimes. Filing false police reports, criminal harassment, and making terrorist threats, she explained. The district attorney's office believes they have a strong case. What's the likely outcome? Given her mental state, probably court-ordered psychiatric treatment and probation. But Mr. Harper, she'll be prohibited from contacting you or your girlfriend for the foreseeable future. That evening, Emma and I sat on my couch, holding each other and processing everything that had happened. I keep thinking I should feel sorry for her, Emma said. She's my sister, and she's clearly sick. You can feel sorry for her and still protect yourself, I said. What she did was wrong, regardless of her mental state. Do you think we'll ever have a normal relationship with my family again? I think your parents are good people who were manipulated by someone they trusted, I said. Give them time to process what really happened. And Rachel? Rachel needs professional help. Hopefully she'll get it and eventually understand what she's done. Do you forgive her? I was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the months of harassment, the attempts to destroy our careers, the lies and manipulation. I forgive her, I said finally, but I'll never forget, and I'll never let her hurt you again. Emma looked up at me with tears in her eyes. I love you. I love you too. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the windows and Emma making coffee in the kitchen. For the first time in months, my phone wasn't buzzing with harassment calls or threatening messages. It was over, really over. Rachel was getting the help she needed, her family was beginning to heal from years of manipulation, and Emma and I were free to build the life we wanted together. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just living well and letting the truth speak for itself. 6 months later, Emma and I were married in a small ceremony attended by her parents, her brother, and a few close friends. Rachel was still in court-ordered treatment, but she'd sent a letter through her therapist apologizing for her actions and wishing us happiness. It wasn't the dramatic confrontation or elaborate revenge I'd fantasized about during the worst of her harassment campaign, but it was something better: justice, healing, and the chance to move forward. As we danced at our wedding reception, Emma whispered in my ear, "No regrets?" "None," I said, spinning her around. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be." And for the first time in years, I truly meant it.